They say the Amazon rainforest is the green hell, but they are wrong. Hell isn't made of trees and vines. Hell is made of hunger. My name is Alan. I didn't come here for gold or glory. I came here to find a ghost. My father. 10 years ago, he vanished in this sector. The locals called it the Golden Grave. They said he went mad, talking about walls that bled syrup and a humming sound that came from beneath the earth. Everyone told me to turn back, but I couldn't. The rain was hammering against my jacket, but I could smell it, a scent like burnt sugar and rotting meat. I looked at my GPS. The signal was dead. I was standing on the edge of a massive fissure in the ground. This was the coordinate from his final journal entry. I stood on the edge, looking down into the abyss. I yelled out for him. But the darkness just swallowed my voice. Suddenly, the ground didn't shake. It melted. The soil beneath my boots wasn't earth, it was rotting wax. I didn't even have time to scream. The floor gave way and I fell. I fell for what felt like an eternity. Wind rushing past my ears, total darkness, and then impact. I didn't hit stone, I hit something soft, something warm and incredibly sticky.
I tried to stand up, but I couldn't move. My arms were glued to my sides. My legs were trapped in a thick amber substance. It wasn't mud, it was honey, but not the kind you put on toast. It was hot, it was pulsing, it smelled of fermented flowers and copper. I managed to pull one hand free and clicked on my flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness and my blood ran cold. I wasn't in a cave, I was inside a structure. The walls weren't made of rock, they were made of millions of perfect hexagonal cells. Wax. Endless walls of wax stretching up into the dark, and inside the cells were the others. Men, explorers, animals. They were embedded in the walls, preserved in the translucent gold liquid like flies in amber. I saw a man just 10 feet away from me. He was half in, half out of the wall. He wasn't decaying. The honey was keeping him fresh, keeping him edible. This wasn't a grave, it was a pantry. I started to panic, thrashing against the glue-like fluid. I dragged myself forward, desperate to find a way out. Then, the light caught something metallic. A watch, an old rusted wristwatch shining in the muck. I stopped. I knew that watch. I crawled towards it, wiping the slime away from the face of the figure trapped in the wall. It was him, my father. 10 years. He had been here for 10 years. He looked like he had fallen asleep yesterday. His skin was pale, hard, waxy. I touched his face. It was cold. He was gone. The honey had mummified him perfectly. I broke down. I forgot where I was. I forgot the danger. I just knelt there in the dark, apologizing to a corpse. And that was my mistake. Because in the jungle, tears make noise, and noise attracts the hunter. The air shifted. The smell of sugar became overpowering. And then the sound began. A low, vibrating hum that rattled my teeth. It wasn't a machine. It was wings. I looked up. Descending from the darkness was her. She was beautiful in the most terrifying way possible. A humanoid figure, but her skin was made of translucent golden wax. 4 massive, gossamer wings beat the air behind her, keeping her hovering inches above the ground. Her eyes were large, black, and compound, reflecting my terrified face 1,000 times over. The Hive Queen. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed by pure primal fear. She floated closer. She didn't walk. She drifted. She leaned in, her face inches from mine. She smelled of nectar and death. She tilted her head, observing me like a scientist observing a lab rat. Then she spoke. Her voice didn't come from her mouth. It resonated directly inside my skull. 1,000 whispers speaking at once. "Empty," she whispered in my mind. "You are empty." She reached out a hand. Her fingers were long, tipped with needle-like points. She touched my cheek. Her skin was feverishly hot. "Please," I choked out, "let me go." She didn't smile. Her face remained a perfect frozen mask. "Do not fear," the voice echoed in my head. "I will not end you. I will make you whole." She opened her mouth. A thick, glowing neon gold liquid began to drip from her lips. It wasn't honey. It was pure energy. Royal jelly. "No!" I tried to clamp my mouth shut, but her strength was unnatural. She gripped my jaw with one hand, forcing my mouth open with crushing pressure. She leaned forward and let the glowing liquid flow into my throat. It tasted like electricity and fire. I tried to cough it up, but the liquid was alive. It slid down my throat on its own, burning its way into my stomach. My veins caught fire. I tried to scream, but only gold poured out of my mouth. My vision started to fracture, breaking into thousands of tiny hexagonal images. The last thing I saw was my father's frozen face in the wall, and the Queen's black eyes watching me. Then, the darkness took me. Dying is easy. Changing is hell. I woke up inside a cocoon. It was tight, made of a silk that felt stronger than steel. It was pitch black and the heat was suffocating. I felt like I was burning from the inside out. My entire body was itching, but not on my skin. The itch was deep, inside my bones. I tried to move my arm, and I heard a sound, a dry, cracking sound, like dead wood snapping. I touched my forearm with my other hand. My skin felt dry, papery. I pulled at it, and it tore away. It didn't hurt. It felt relieving, like peeling off a tight, suffocating wetsuit. Underneath the dead skin, there was no raw flesh. There was something hard, something smooth and cold. I ran my fingers over my chest. My ribs were gone, replaced by a solid, seamless plate. Chitin. I was growing armor. I tried to scream, "What am I?" But my voice was gone. My throat had reshaped itself. Instead of words, a low, chittering rattle came out. Then the noise started. It wasn't a sound in the room. It was an explosion in my mind. Imagine 1,000 radios tuned to different stations, all screaming at maximum volume. Hungry, feed, protect, queen, intruder, nectar. The voices weren't speaking to me, they were speaking through me. I wasn't alone in my head anymore. I was part of the us. I suddenly knew things I shouldn't know. I knew there was a structural weakness in Sector 4. I knew the Queen was starving. I knew the humidity level outside had dropped. My memories of Alan, my childhood, my father, my name felt distant, like a dream I was waking up from. "Alan is dead," a voice whispered. It was the Queen. Now only the night remains. Rage flooded my system, not human anger, but a cold, predatory instinct. I had to get out. I drove my fingers into the wall of the cocoon. My hands had changed. They were long, black, and tipped with razor-sharp claws. I slashed through the silk effortlessly. I tumbled out onto the floor of the hive. I stood up. The world looked different. My vision had fractured. I didn't see one single image. I saw thousands of tiny hexagons overlaying reality. I could see the heat rising off the wax walls. I could see in the dark. I looked down at myself. I was towering, covered in plates of black and yellow organic armor. I felt light, powerful.
Suddenly, I heard a hiss. A soldier bee, the size of a wolf, crawled out from the shadows. Its mandibles clicked aggressively. It didn't recognize me. It saw an intruder. It lunged. The old Alan would have frozen. The old Alan would have died, but I didn't think. I didn't need to. Time seemed to slow down. I could see the trajectory of its attack before it even moved. I sidestepped with unnatural speed. As it flew past me, I didn't punch it. My wrist snapped forward, and a long, jagged bone spike extended from my forearm. I drove the spike into the creature's neck. It collapsed instantly. I stood over the carcass, yellow blood dripping from my arm. I should have felt horror. I should have felt sick, but I didn't. I felt efficient. "The drone is strong," the queen's voice echoed. I looked up. She was sitting on her throne of wax. Her golden glow was dimmer now, her movements sluggish. But when I looked at her, I didn't see a monster anymore. My human brain screamed run, but my new blood screamed mother. She looked divine. My knees hit the floor. I didn't want to bow, but my body obeyed the hierarchy. "My queen," I rasped. My voice sounded like grinding stones. "You have shed your weak skin," she said softly. "You are perfect." But the moment of peace was shattered. The entire hive shuddered violently. Debris rained down from the ceiling. The voices in my head shifted from a hum to a scream of panic. Danger, breach, the red ones. The red ones? I thought. The queen stood up, fear visible in her compound eyes. "They are here," she said. "Who?" I asked. Before she could answer, the outer wall exploded. Through the smoke and dust, a nightmare flew in. It wasn't a bee, it was a hornet. Massive, armored in blood-red plating. It didn't have pollen sacs for gathering food. It only had serrated blades for killing. It grabbed the dead soldier bee I had just killed and tore it in half with a single motion. The queen looked at me, desperate. "They have come to harvest us. They want the royal jelly." She reached out a hand. "Will you let your queen die?" The hornet turned its gaze toward me. It let out a shrieking buzz, mocking me. It saw me as just another soft insect to be crushed. That was its mistake. I felt a surge of adrenaline and chemical fury. Two long, curved blades extended from my knuckles. "I am not an insect," I growled. "I am the king." I charged. I thought I was fast, but the hornet, it was lightning. We collided in midair. It was like hitting a freight train. We crashed through a wall of honeycomb, tumbling into the next chamber. It was stronger than me. It was heavier. It pinned me against the wax, raising its massive stinger to impale my chest. My human instinct screamed that I was about to die, but the night inside me whispered, "Use the pain." I hardened my armor plates. The stinger struck my chest, but instead of piercing my heart, it skidded off the chitin with a screech of grinding bone. The hornet paused, confused. It hadn't expected resistance. That was my chance. I didn't punch like a man. I slashed like a mantis. My arm blades blurred. I severed the joint of its right wing. It let out a high-pitched shriek that shattered the air. It lost its balance. I grabbed it by its armored neck. "You entered my home," I roared.
My voice sounded like a landslide. "Now you die in it." I squeezed. With a sickening crunch, I crushed its skull. I tossed the carcass aside. I had won the duel, but we were losing the war. I looked around the chamber. It was a slaughterhouse. The red hornets were swarming in by the hundreds. My golden brothers were being torn apart. The floor was slick with yellow hemolymph and severed wings. I ran to the queen. She had fallen near her throne. A hornet had slashed her abdomen, and her life force, the royal jelly, was leaking out onto the floor. Her golden glow was fading to a dull gray. I knelt beside her. "Mother," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop it. "You have to fight." She opened her great black eyes. They were dim, tired. "My time is done, my knight." Her voice echoed in my mind, faint now, like a dying radio signal. "No," I said, "you are the hive." "The hive is not a place," she whispered. "It is a force, and energy never dies. It only transfers." The walls around us shook violently as more hornets breached the inner sanctum. The queen pointed a trembling claw to her own chest. Beneath her translucent skin, I could see her heart. It wasn't beating, it was burning like a trapped star. "You must take it," she commanded. I recoiled. "What?" "You must consume me." I stepped back in horror. "No, I won't." "If you don't, we all die," she said, her voice hardening. "The hornets will harvest us. Your father, he will remain trapped in that wall forever, food for scavengers." She knew exactly where to strike my heart. "You must choose, Alan. Do you want to die as a man, or do you want to live as a god?" With her last ounce of strength, she tore open her own chest cavity. Her glowing heart pulsed in the open air. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. My human mind was screaming, weeping, but the hive mind was chanting, power, survival, ascension. I reached out and took the glowing heart. It was warm. It was heavy. "Forgive me."
Sorry. I had no other choice.
I whispered, and I consumed it. For a second, nothing happened. The queen's body turned to ash and crumbled away. Then the pain hit. It wasn't like the first transformation. This was a supernova exploding in my veins. I screamed so loud the wax walls cracked. The hornets stopped their attack. They turned to look at me. Light erupted from my body. My black armor bleached white, then turned into a blinding, regal gold. My shoulders tore open, and two massive translucent wings burst forth, spanning 20 feet. I opened my eyes. I didn't just see the hive anymore. I was the hive. I could feel every vibration, every drop of wax, every atom of the structure. I hovered into the air, looking down at the army of invaders. The hornets screeched and charged at me, a swarm of red death. I didn't even raise my fists. I didn't have to. "Leave," I commanded. My voice was a chorus of thousands. The hornets froze in midair, held in place by the sheer pressure of my will. "You have dirtied my floor," I said. I clenched my fist. In response, the walls of the hive exploded outward. A tidal wave of boiling wax and honey surged forward, obeying my mental command. "Drown." The golden wave crashed over the hornet army. They couldn't fight the liquid. It encased them, burned their wings, and glued them to the walls instantly. In less than a minute, the war was over. The silence returned. I drifted down to where the queen had been. The surviving bees gathered around me, thousands of them. They didn't buzz, they bowed.
"Long live the king," the voices chanted in my head. I looked up at the ceiling. Far above, there was a small hole of light, the entrance, the way back to the surface, to the human world. I could fly out. I could go home. But then I looked at the wall. I saw my father's face, peaceful and frozen in the amber, and I felt the thousands of minds connected to mine, waiting for guidance. My children. I realized then that Alan died the moment he took that first drink. I wasn't lost anymore. I was the guardian of the golden grave. I reached out my hand toward the ceiling. "Seal the gate," I ordered. And at my command, the wax flowed over the hole, shutting out the light. The darkness embraced me. I am home.